Welcome to the Crime Redefined podcast, produced by Zero Cliff Media. Coming to you from the US Bank Tower, high above downtown Los Angeles. In our podcast, we drill deep into forensics and criminal investigation from the viewpoint of the defense, as well as explore the intersection of the media and the justice system.
Thanks for joining us on Crime Redefined today. I'm Dion Mitchell here with my Crime Redefined co-host, Mehul Angeria. We truly appreciate you taking the time to listen to our episodes and interact with us on social media.
Yeah, please keep the comments coming on Twitter and Instagram and all of that. We like to hear your feedback and commentary on how we're doing. So today we have the honor of talking to Terrence Woods Sr., whose son, Terrence Jr., mysteriously disappeared almost 3 years ago on October 5th, 2018. To this day, there are no real substantial leads as to what may have happened to him. So needless to say, this has been a very grueling and long ordeal for our special guest today.
We just felt it was important to give Terrence Sr. another platform to get his perspective on his son's disappearance out there. Just like in a cold case investigation, the more the story is told, the more likely it is that someone will come forward with new information, ideas, or resources to help solve this mystery. So today we're going to take a little bit of time and we're going to set this up for you with all the details that we have and where things stand as of today.
Yeah, this will be brief. I mean, certainly you can read a lot about the case. And we'll, after we talk to Terrence, we can all decide what are established facts and what are in question. But it goes like this. Terrence Jr. was part of a 12-person crew from a London-based production company. And they were on site in Idaho working on a TV show in the Oro Grande area of central Idaho.
Now, another kind of full disclosure, I'm familiar with this area, and it is heavily forested, and it's also at elevation of about 4,500 feet. It is truly a no man's land where the Penman Mine is located. As you'll hear from Terrence, even the basic facts surrounding his son's disappearance are not necessarily agreed on.
Right. So let's go with, again, just what's been reported kind of universally. So it was reported that on the evening of October 5th, 2018, again, almost 3 years ago, that Terrence all of a sudden said that he needed to go to the bathroom, and he put down his handheld radio and proceeded to run extremely fast down a very steep embankment into treacherous terrain. And from that point, supposedly crew members ran down this embankment after him, basically didn't see him, I guess. They couldn't catch up to him, didn't find a trace of him. And it was claimed that when these crew members then came back up the embankment, that because of the terrain and all the trees, their clothes were torn and they were actually scraped up.
As they should be. Like I said, this is heavily forested, and most of the ground there is either, what's the word for it, from where branches and stuff come down, and it's a lot of shale rock. So it's slippery going, and I believe there was snow on the ground at the time, or at least some moisture, which would have made it even more treacherous, Mehul.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into this, but, it's worth noting that Terrence was not being known as a mountain man or anything like that. And
that's right.
I mean, there were descriptions.
No, I think it's fair just to say he's a city guy for the most part.
And there were descriptions of him running like a hare or something very fast down the steep embankment. So we'll get into that with Terrence. But
so anyway, the crew, did what they needed to do, and they put out the call, and a search ensued for Terrence Jr. in this harsh terrain, including scent dogs, helicopters with thermal imaging equipment, and a search and rescue team. There was no evidence developed that Terrence had been in the area it was claimed that he ran to.
So, this is an interesting development, I think, and this would depend on what filter you're looking at the facts through. So what you describe can mean one of two things, basically, right? This is a mystery. This guy ran down and there's just no sight of him. What the hell happened? Or if you want to play devil's advocate, you might look at this and say, well, wait a minute. They threw everything they could, and there's no sign that he ever ran down that embankment. So, did that even happen? So, of course, Terrence and his Terrence Sr. and Terrence's mom wanted to get out to Idaho as soon as possible to find out what the heck was going on. And when they did that, they expected to meet with the sheriff of Idaho County, as well as the TV crew that Terrence was with on the shoot, because obviously they would be the best witnesses.
Right.
But when they got to the sheriff's department, there was only one crew member left at the meeting, and apparently the rest had already returned to London. And this episode that they were all filming actually never made it to the air.
So it just kind of, just ups the level of the mystery, right?
Yeah, it sure does. Is there a reason that they weren't at the sheriff's department? Just a lot of questions
if
here.
anything, it just doesn't look, right.
Look good.
But anyway,
yeah.
So although Terrence had spent some time in London working in production, he'd been living with Terrence Sr. in Maryland when he agreed to the gold mine shoot. When Terrence left home for the shoot, the first stop he made with the crew was actually, and I believe he was picked up in an airport in Montana. It was not in Idaho. So as you will hear from Terrence Sr., the overall investigation is sadly lacking, which in my opinion is kind of a mystery there, another mystery in itself. There does not seem to even be a definitive evidence that Terrence ever made it to Idaho from Montana.
Yeah, Deanna, I have to admit, I really hadn't heard of this case until you brought it to my attention year and a half ago. And I know you kept pushing me, hey, check this out. And then when I finally did,
well, I know you love a good mystery.
Absolutely, and you were right. And so, to kind of study up on the case, I think we both read the articles that were out there. There's one on Deadline. There's one on Vice, I think. Those are the major ones anyway. And then there's I think a 6-part Fox 5 podcast called Missing Pieces into the Woods. And then finally, at the end of 2020, there was a Dr. Phil episode dedicated to the disappearance of Terrence. And I have to say, I tuned out a little bit after Dr. Phil. And I sort of just assumed that, well, after the Dr. Phil episode, there's going to be a big break.
Right?
That's going to solve it. That's the publicity it needed. There's going to be some new leads and all of that. And then, just, I don't know, a few weeks ago, poking around on the internet, I couldn't find one development in that case or any evidence of any leads that came from the Dr. Phil. And I was kind of shocked because, isn't that the thing now in cold case investigation that you get it on a podcast, you get it on
always
TV,
somebody,
and it just shakes it up.
I mean, come on, this is Dr. Phil. That's a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to reach more people?
Right.
In fact, we talked to like Lindsay Wade about that too. About rewarming these cold cases, and something all shakes out in this day and age of social media and all that. Didn't happen here.
Yeah, so instead of rehashing the prevailing narrative on what happened to Terrence Jr. and pretending we are experts on this case, we wanted to speak directly to Terrence Sr. to get a more well-rounded view of some of the puzzling assertions and facts surrounding the investigation.
Yeah, it's frustrating that there's just a lot of speculation out there. There's a lot of connecting the dots maybe prematurely without the hard evidence or without that what I want to see. I want to see that physical evidence, that thorough investigation.
Show me some DNA.
Some DNA. Let's, I just, when I'm involved in post-conviction investigations, it's like the reinvestigation is so thorough. People are knocking on doors or looking at reports. And as we're going to find out, there's really a dearth of reports and stuff because of the status of the case. And so now we're left with a bunch of theories that are all over the place. So, some would say that, wow, Terrence, he wanted to get off the grid and he wanted to disappear or ghost himself. Or maybe there was foul play by somebody. Maybe it was his coworkers. Did Terrence fall in a mine shaft? Did he succumb to the elements or to a bear or something like that? There's also the rumor that Terrence had a mental breakdown, and there's probably a whole bunch more. So, our feeling here is let's kind of get to the closest source we can, which is Terrence Jr.'s dad, Terrence. And, in the end, as you'll hear, we had a very poignant and I would say long discussion with Terrence. So we're going to break this into a 2-part episode. And we're also working on potentially speaking to another person who's very close to the case and may have some information. So here's part 1 of our interview with Terrence Woods Sr. Terrence, we're honored to have you on Crime Redefined today.
I thank you for having me as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking some time out of an evening. And Terrence, it's our hope that today's interview will move that needle forward in the long process of getting some answers about your son.
We definitely need the answers. It's going on 3 years, and every time I think I'm getting closer to something, I get knocked back 25 feet.
Wow.
It's like I've been on Dr. Phil, I've been on talk shows, Fox 5, other radio shows, and spoken to a lot of people. And in the beginning, everybody, oh, we want to help, we can help X, Y, and Z. And the next thing, it's a dead end.
Yeah, we're going to try to do everything we can to just get more information out there and spread the word. But my first question for you is how are you and how are your family? You just mentioned it's coming up on 3 years. I'm just wondering how are you doing and how's your family doing?
It's real rough. I mean, because my two sons, Terrence is my oldest, and he's 29 now. My youngest son is 25. I've been raising my kids for over 18 years by myself. Um, Although their mothers in their life, we're not together. And they have always been with me. So it's kind of rough because the day that I took my son to the airport, September 30th, 2018, his bedroom is the same exact way it was the day I took him to the airport. So, I don't know about anyone else, but it's real difficult on me.
And there's no way that I think that you anybody can possibly imagine, what you're going through until you actually go through it. We just wanted to kind of see how you were doing and how you're doing now, compared to how you were when you first found the news, those first couple of weeks.
The first couple of weeks were a shock, and it was, denial. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. We're gonna finally gonna come home. Now we're going over 2.5 years, and you would think it would get better, but it's getting worse because after 2.5 years with no answers still, it's not a good feeling. I try to go to sleep some nights, and my son said, Dad, help me, Dad, help me. And I just sit up and go sit in his room on the bed and say, man, I ain't forget about you. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna find you. And by the time I know it's 4 o'clock, I gotta go to work. I ain't been asleep all night. I gotta go to work and put it on a $9 smile and act like, hey, what's going on? Ha ha ha. And inside of me is like upside down.
Well, Terrence, let's get into some of the reasons why you don't have any answers. So, can you explain for our listeners why it is that the Idaho County Sheriff's Office considers Terrence's disappearance an open case, and then how that designation hinders you from collecting more information or doing your own investigation?
Well, the sad thing with the Idaho Sheriff Department is I don't know what's going on with them, right? To say the least. But if they close the case, then the records become public records, so anyone can get the information. Now, I don't know if you've seen the Dr. Phil show when I was on the Dr. Phil show.
Yes.
We did.
When Dr. Phil asked the sheriff, well, why don't you close the case so the family can get, information? He said, I'm not closing the case. Well, if you don't close the case, then are you going to still work on it? No, we're not actively looking as well. So if you're not going to close the case, you're not going to look for him, then what's the hard part about closing it? Why don't you want us to see what you have not really done and the lies that you all have told people?
I was going to say, what's your gut feeling of why he would be holding this up? It just makes no sense, logical sense of why he would
because
be
it's
kind
more
of working against you.
Behind it. It's more behind it than he's admitting to, and that he want anyone to know. They know they dropped the ball if they didn't have something to do with the ball from day one. From day one, when I got to Idaho, the day I got to Idaho, when I went to sheriff department, this young man that worked there, he said, and this is the person I spoke to on the phone that worked in the sheriff department. He's the one that took the 911 call. When he took the 911 call and I spoke, he said, Mr. Woods, something's not right about this. Something is not right. He said, when you get to Idaho, make sure you see me. When I got to Idaho, went to the sheriff department, I seen this person. This person gave me an envelope. He said, whatever you do, don't tell anybody I gave this to you and don't show it to anybody. No problem. I go back to the hotel room. I open the envelope up. It's the original police report that was called in. And this police report is saying detail for detail what quote unquote was said when they called this in. One, they said my son was a dark complexioned person. I don't know if you've seen pictures of my
We
son.
have, yeah. He doesn't fit
But
that
he-
description.
Not dark at all.
Right.
Okay, moving along. Then you all said that morning he had an anxiety attack. Okay, well, if he had an anxiety attack, did you all call professional medical assistance? And no report that you will hear or read or anything, no one never once up to this second said they called for professional medical assistance. But you told me, oh, we had to detain him. Oh, you said he had an anxiety attack. So do you mean restrain? No, no, no. Well, detain mean to hold against your will. Detain mean to hold down. If he had an anxiety attack, why would you have to detain him somewhere? No, but everything worked out. You still didn't answer that question. Well, everything worked out, and then we went on out, and the day was going along well. Okay, now everything worked out from him having this anxiety attack. Now, mind you, if you look at any of the reports, listen to anything, you don't hear anyone dwell on Montana. Well, Montana, that's the place he first went to on September 30th, which was that Sunday. Well, if he was in Montana from Sunday to Thursday, which was the 4th of October now, woke up on the 5th, which was that Friday, no one speak nothing about from Sunday to Thursday. No one say in Montana, he allegedly had an anxiety attack, he was tripping. You had no conversation about Montana. Now he's in Idaho for less than 24 hours. The day he wake up, that Friday, from that Thursday getting there, he has an anxiety attack. Wow, out of the clear. But 4 days he been in Montana. We speak nothing of that. No one even shows there's no pictures of him in Montana. You don't even see any pictures of him in Idaho. Okay, so nevertheless, that day go on the 5th. Now you say you're out on the shoot and he has, this relapse. He's acting strange. He tries to grab a drone out of the sky. Still, no one sat him down, put him in a car, truck, whatever, and got professional medical assistance. If I go to work right now, if you go to work and your coworkers see you acting strange, out of the norm, whoa, man, let's call some help for him. No one, not once, said they call for professional medical assistance for this person who's at work with 10 other people, grown people. You will read nothing. No one ever said they called for professional medical. No one even said they called for medical assistance. Not even putting the word professional in front of it. But you all determined that this young man who's been all over the world, never had an issue nowhere before, he's with you all for this one trip. And this one morning, although he was with you 4 days prior in Montana, which you speak nothing of, but this one morning in Idaho, he wake up that morning, have a mental breakdown starting the morning off, then just lose it in the evening and leap off a cliff and run like a hare.
I want to follow up on something you said, Terrence. Other than, I guess, the lucky break of that one police officer handing you that envelope, have you seen any type of official reports on the investigation?
No,
nothing.
They will not give anything. That's just like when I spoke to them on the phone, I was supposed to speak to the whole crew. By the time I got there, it was only one person there. They said that there's no reason for me to speak to anyone else. Once again, I ask a simple question. If you go to work today, I go to work today, and I'm with coworkers, God forbid something happened, the first thing your family's going to say, who is he with? Who is she with? Who are they with? If nothing's funny, nothing's out of line, he's with Joe Blow, Mike, Sally, Pam. Because your family want to ask people, hey, what took place? But when you say, no, you cannot speak to nobody, and you get everyone out of the country, really?
Very fishy.
Really? Because guess what? 10 people can't tell the same lie. Now, if it's all the truth, all of us going to say the same story if it's all the truth. But if we got 10 people and we know something shady or a lie, everybody ain't going to tell the same lie. So how you cover a lie up? Get 9 of the 10 people out of here. We got one host here to talk. Come on, man. Up to this day, they won't give anyone the other people's information. Come on.
So you actually have the original report that
I have the original report.
And that came from the 911 operator.
I have the original 911 call. And that's
Okay.
another thing that took place with the sheriff's department when I was out there. So the guy, Simon, the one person that was allegedly led, that's the person they stated did not get along with my son. And he told me out his own mouth that when he first met my son, he had high standards of my son, but all of a sudden those standards dropped. And, he don't know what was wrong with my son because my son didn't know what type of fruit to get him when he told him to go get his fruit. My son don't know you. Why would he know what kind of fruit to get you, sir?
It's almost like shifting the blame is kind of what that sounds like.
Yeah.
Why is it the first thing? Here's some parents who are upset. Why is it the first thing that you tell them is that you essentially diss their son? It's crazy.
Exactly. And I spoke to this dude on the phone prior to even going that morning. And this guy's saying all this negative stuff about my son, although my son is the one that's missing.
Right.
And you were the one that was supposed to be with him, but you telling him you were uncomfortable. He disappointed you. And dude, y'all just told me my son's missing. And you telling me about my son disappointed you and did not stand up to your standards. Really?
Do you think do you think he came out of Montana? Do you ever think that he was actually in Idaho? Do you have actually people that you've spoke with?
You have a couple of locals, which I have not actually physically seen or spoke to. It's word of mouth. It said they saw him. They were up on the mountaintop with him. They spoke with him. Well, this place had 200. The population is 206 people. It's one way in and one way out. They knew who I was when I walked into the gas station, supermarket, all that. They knew who I was. Oh, you must be the young man's father that's disappeared. So you all know who I am, but nobody know what happened to my son. But moving quick forward, and then we could rewind. So when I'm in the sheriff's department that morning, now mind you, they don't know I have this paperwork. They don't know this. So they're speaking. So I said, let me ask a question. Why did you all say my son had a mental breakdown and leaped off a cliff? The dude Simon said, no one ever said that. I said, well, why did you all say my son was dark complexion? No one said that. I said, that was said. The sheriff looks down. He said, Mr. Woods, I have the 911 report right here in front of me. Opens up the yellow manila folder, looks down. No one said anything like that. Mind you, I have the 911 report also,
Right.
And I read it last night. But I never said nothing to them. At that time, I said, man, I got to get out of here because I might disappear. When he bluntly lied to me and looked down at the paper, no one said that. No one said anything like that, Mr. Woods. Where would you get something like that from? Wow.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like they're kind of trying to cover something there,
yes,
but for the life of me, I can't figure out what it would be.
Well, I'll say this. I don't know even if my son made it to Idaho. But my thing is this. When my son when I got the text from my son's phone, I don't even know if it was him text, but I got a text when I got the text from his phone and said, Dad, I'm coming home. So I'm not knowing anything's wrong. I'm like, good. Make sure you bring me my shot glasses because everywhere he goes, that's the only thing. I don't want nothing but shot glasses to go in the cabinet. So I'm thinking I'm going to talk to him later on because I get this text, on Friday. So I'm saying, well, later on, he's going to tell me, why he cut it short, why he coming home. I'm thinking I'm going to talk to my son later on, not knowing that if that was him that sent the text or how the text came from his phone, whatever happened, because I didn't verbally speak to him. This is a text coming to me.
Yeah, that's a great point, Terrence. And I know much was made of, I think it was on Dr. Phil. They made it seem like a mystery why Terrence left early. Yet in other media coverage, like a podcast, the claim was that his mother was having medical tests, and that's why he wanted to leave early. But you bring up a great point, and and we'll get to this. But in any good investigation, you look at the cell phone evidence and all that, but we don't know that those messages are coming from Terrence. So, what's your take on why he would leave the set early?
Well, he's never left a set early. That's first and foremost. Okay, first and foremost, he's never left a set early. Secondly, they were in Montana. They have pictures on their Facebook page with all of them in Montana. My son is in none of the pictures. They have pictures of them in Idaho. My son is in none of the pictures. Well, when I had the private investigator before he started stealing money from me, he claimed, which I never got, that I paid for, that he had the footage from the hotel. Well, you would, if I'm a sheriff, whatever, why don't they have the footage from the hotel? So show me some pictures of my son walking in a hotel, walking out the hotel. I have not seen any of that yet. No one, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
where's that at? I have seen no footage of proof other than word of mouth, some couple of locals that you all could have paid money to say anything. You know what I'm saying? You in this little small town, somebody tell you I'm gonna give you $50,000, and that's more than 3-4 years of salary to you. So you can say anything.
Yeah,
So
we have those questions because we, you know, the questions that you have in your statements that you're making, we have those exact same ones. I mean, this stuff screamed at us when we were watching all the footage and the interviews.
you know what I'm saying? And they're making like, okay, he had this quote unquote mental breakdown. Okay, like I said, you all keep saying he had a mental breakdown. So what doctor, professional medical assistant person documented that and said that? What happened in Montana? First, let's start up this from 4 days. Sunday, Thursday, y'all on the trip going to Idaho. No one say nothing about no funny behavior from Sunday to Thursday. There's nothing you're gonna pick up. You read any information from Sunday to Thursday. Only thing you hear about is this hip on Friday. He had a mental nervous breakdown, etc., and all hell broke loose and went zero for my son. What? No one is leading nothing up to this. Come on.
You mentioned the private investigators that you hired. How was it working with them?
It was terrible. It was terrible. I was getting shot. I was vulnerable. Don't get me wrong. When I met the first guy, he talked real good, sound real slick. My son missing. So I'm just trying to find somebody to help me find my son. So I gave him my bank account. Man, what you need, take this money. Just send me the bill. Tell me what you're taking it for. I get a bill, a phone call to London. I gave him a friend of my son's phone number. He called that person and charged me $600 for a phone call.
Whoa.
And I gave you the person's phone name and phone number. And I got a $600 London phone call.
As far as you know, sorry.
Yes.
As far as you know, Terrence, the investigators that you dealt with, the private investigators, were they like licensed people that would appear reputable?
They well on the internet, the one I found, he was supposedly, he had some good stuff on the internet. It caught my eyes. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
At the time, I was just trying to find somebody. Went through several people, and this guy's little biography sound real good. So I'm like, oh yeah, he talked a good game. So all right, well, what we got to do to get started? I'm seeing paperwork gets here, and we sign this, and we're gonna get started. So I'm thinking, okay, man, I'm trying to find my son. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing like this never happened to anyone I know, so I don't know who to ask to give me advice. Say, hold up, don't do, yes, do. So
Right.
man, my son is missing.
So basically, it sounds like you didn't get a lot from them, and they just blew your cash.
Oh, I got money taken from me. Then I had to close, cancel that there debit card, and then I got the next guy, and this guy found out he was working with the damn sheriff department in Idaho.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so it happened. I thank God that I believe in God, man, because that's the only day to keep me strong, man. Because I got to stay strong, for my youngest son. My youngest son, he won't even talk about it.
Wow.
He didn't want to even talk about his brother. He's 25 years old. He's a banker at PNC Bank. He owns a wedding planning company. So he's doing great, but he's holding on. He's staying strong, but he won't talk about his brother. He don't even want to talk about it. So right now it's just me and him home now. Because both of my sons still live with me.
Well, let me ask you this. So far, we've talked about how you weren't treated right by the cops. You weren't treated right by the private investigators. How do you feel that the media has treated you and, the story of Terrence's disappearance?
I think the media, well, I'm not, I'm not going to get political right now. I'm not a Donald Trump follower. If you are, that's your business. But what did he say? Fake media? Yeah.
Right.
Shit, fake media. Because I read some stories, man, and I'm like, where the hell these people get this story from? These people never contact me. I don't know who they spoke to, So people grabbing stuff that Idaho put out, this person put out, and then they put these stories. Oh, he disappeared on his own. Oh, he didn't get along with his family. Did you speak to his family? How you create these stories. I look at stories, I'm like, well, who did these people speak to even get this information? I never spoke to this person. I never gave this person permission. You know what I'm saying? So I push my son's name and see all these stories come up, missing child, missing, and I read a little bit. Wow, really?
Well, that's
It's
actually one
like,
of the reasons
what
why we
the
wanted to,
hell?
yeah, we wanted to speak with you, because so much of the media that we read and watched, you can see that everything was slanted for a narrative for clicks and
Negative
for
towards him.
exactly. And we could not understand why. And my next question is, and I think you've already answered, is do you feel there's been enough national exposure? I don't understand, after when I first came in contact with this, why like Hollywood and why everybody, sports athletes, everyone is just not, talking about this. Kids just don't disappear.
I've tried to get in touch with Tyler Perry. Now, I tried to Jennifer Hudson. He worked with Jennifer Hudson on The Voice. My son worked on The Voice with Jennifer Hudson, Will I Am, Tom Jones, all of that. He got pictures with them, all of that. I don't know, I'm sure all of them, people read their mail and say what they're going to give them and all this stuff. So, I don't have no direct line. So I sent stuff to Tyler Perry, Jennifer Hudson, Will I Am, President Obama, Miss Obama. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, damn.
And no one would touch it.
No replies from nobody. And then the people that do say, oh, yeah, oh, man, something's wrong with this. We going to get, all of a sudden, they go dead. Like, somebody say, leave it alone. You know what I'm saying? That's like in London. I've spoken to several people in London in the journalism field, and they say, man, they will blackball you out here if you mention your son thing. I'm like, what? They said, no, nobody ever going to talk about that. They said, Raw TV, too powerful. They said, man, we trying to get in the business. You can't bring up that story. Well, that alone saying, why would I blackball someone if they're not doing nothing wrong? What big picture you all trying to cover? See, because my thing is this: if that was a check from my son, and like you said, people are saying, oh, he told them that his mother was having an operation. If he told them this because his mother was not having an operation, then maybe he told them that because he saw something, heard something, he wasn't comfortable with something, and he felt he had to say something that might make them allow him to get the hell out of there without them, their eyebrows going up. But my thing is this: if I get a check from you on Friday saying that you coming home, then 7:20 a.m. Saturday morning, I get a call saying you leaped off a cliff, but no one can find a trace of you. As you heard the sheriff say on Dr. Phil, the dogs went to the area where they said, quote, unquote, my son went off. Couldn't find a trace of him, smelled nothing of him. Helicopters up in the air. Black Ops couldn't find no heat detection of him. Well, he was not there.
See, I wondered that. Yeah, I'm wondering that as well.
My son didn't go over a 70-degree angle clip. And like I told the sheriff, I said, first of all, my son had $300 inserts in his shoes. He's flat foot. My son tripped walking up the steps. Now, you all going to say in the evening, he dropped the radio in the evening in the woods. And then he had a car waiting. So this boy never been here in his life. But he planned a car to wait on the road. And he's going to run, drop your radio, don't have a flash, left your book bag with your light in it. In his bag, he had a stun gun in his bag. He had his pocket knife in his bag. He left his bag with his stun gun, pocket knife, everything, to leap down a cliff at night in the dark, and you're going to make it in the dark through the woods that you've never been in, get to a road, and make it to the destination. They said when he was running, we sent one of the vehicles to the road. By the time the vehicle got there, he never crossed it because he never go down there. But then they said when they went after him, as he was running like a hare, they came back up, their clothes was ripped and they were bleeding. Well, y'all came back up with ripped clothes and bleeding, but he didn't drop a blood that a dog could smell. A piece of his clothes didn't get ripped, so he flew down the cliff. Get the hell out of
You know, you mentioned Raw, and obviously Raw is part of Discovery, which has got a pretty long arms in the entertainment industry. And I was wondering at the end of the Dr. Phil, they finished up with that Raw TV had reached out to you and offered to meet with you in the Idaho Sheriff's Department. Did that follow-up meeting ever occur?
First of all, okay, Raw TV, and this is only hearsay. That's only what they told us. We don't, because no one reached out to me, right? So Raw TV, why do I have to come back to Idaho for you to meet up with me? We could do a Zoom meeting, phone call. I don't want to come back to Idaho. What, you want to get me back there so I now disappear? My son disappeared out there. The sheriff showed me that there's something shady with him when he sat up, looked down, and read a piece of paper and told me I was wrong, and I got the same paper in my pocket. And I know and now you're going to tell me we could meet up in Idaho. Hell no.
So that meeting never took place, that follow-up that they threw on it?
Those people, Raw TV haven't offered me a penny to get a lawyer, didn't offer me a private investigator, didn't offer no help. Now y'all want to get me back in Idaho. The Idaho Sheriff Department said they're not looking for my son.
Well, let me ask you this, Terrence.
I'm listening.
What person or organization, in your opinion, has actually been the biggest help to you as you sought to find some answers?
No one as of yet.
Wow.
I thought Dr. Phil was going to be a plus, and I followed Dr. Phil's show. When you go on these TV shows, 99.9% of the time, at the end of that show, if you have a drug problem, we're going to put you in counseling. Marital problem, we're going to get you help for that. At the end of that show, they offer you help towards whatever the problem is you came on. Dr. Phil ain't offered me nothing. They ain't say, well, we can get you a private investigator. We can, no. Well, one, when you first took the show, it took you over 2 months to actually air it from day of you asking me to do it. Then when you finally aired it, it was a put together show, meaning you took what I told you and what my ex-wife said and we said, and then you spoke to the sheriff department totally separately, and then you put that together. I wasn't on a show where I could say, hold up, sheriff, you're lying about that. His show is about people talking back and forth.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we got on, Terrence. The editing is crazy. It is so chopped up. Yeah.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Yeah, exactly. Dr. Phil's show, normally, Dr. Phil come at you. You know what I'm saying? If he know you, he come at you. He tap dance with that there show. He didn't eat them up. He tap dance. Then when he asked sheriff, so why don't you give the family the information? We're not doing a follow-up, and we're not giving them no information. Oh, okay. But like I said, if you look at Dr. Phil's show, at the end of any show, they offer a drug addict counseling, marriage people counseling. They offer you something to help you. At the end of that show, the show was overcut. I ain't never heard from them yet since. That's a wrap.
Yeah, you're right, Terrence. That's the formula. Dr. Phil's supposed to be aggressive and get the answers and not just sit in the chair.
What was the resolution? What was the resolution? If you watched it, what resolution you seen? Then, like I said, his show revolved around everybody's asking questions. If you cheat on your wife there. Whatever it is, there you had us, and then you had the sheriff. You did a separate interview with him, and whatever you felt made him look good, you put that in, and then you made the show together. It wasn't, Sheriff, you're lying, Sheriff. I know, Sheriff, I had a copy of the original report. I couldn't say that to him because you didn't have talking together. So that was a but his background and everything. Dr. Phil, he's under Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey has partnership with Discovery.
There you go.
Good point.
Big situation. You know,
yeah, you think that she would pick it up, you know?
Oprah Winfrey have ownership with Discovery. Dr. Phil is under Oprah Winfrey.
Right.
Before all this went out, hold up. Oh, no, you can't step hard on this one. You told him you was gonna do it. You made yourself obligated. Okay, we'll put it up there, but dock it up, and you don't fuck with them. And that's what was done.
I want to get into some of the investigation stuff, and I was wondering, as anybody, I probably know this answer as well. It checked Terrence's electronic footprint, like his cell, any social media, before and after the computer, bank records, etc. Has any of that been investigated?
So now let's go with that one. His cell phone, of course, we don't have a cell phone. The cell phone, quote unquote, was with him, supposedly. He couldn't ping it because the first thing I said to him, why don't you ping his phone? Well, we're in the woods and we have satellite phones because there's no service. Well, ping his phone to see where the last service was that took place. No happenings. You know what I'm saying? Don't exist. Now, as far as his laptop, mind you, when I got there, the sheriff department had everything. They gave me his laptop. They said, you can't get in. We tried to get into it, but he have a triple firewall in it. And if you go into it and you do something, it's going to burn everything up. But we're going to give you his laptop back, but we doubt if you can get into it. I brought it home, gave it to somebody. They said, man, I don't know what kind of firewall they have. I say that to say, I don't know what them people already, they could have took whatever they want to do in there, and they could have put this firewall in there. I don't know. I know his diary that came back home that I have, that everybody talking about, oh, in his diary, he said this. I know pages are ripped out of that I never received. I know in his camera, I have his camera, and you would think, as soon as I open up, you'd think all the pictures that I would see would be the first pictures of whatever he took while he was in Idaho and Montana. I couldn't find some of them pictures until midway flicking through pictures.
That's a great point. Because I noticed that with your son, he was really big on either video or photograph diary, documenting everything he did.
Yes. And I'm glad you just said that.
And there would be a photograph trail from
anywhere my son go, he gonna take pictures. He gonna take pictures of himself. It's nothing in it with my son's physical body.
Terrence, quick question on that point. Have you ever considered, or have you ever talked to a computer forensics expert who could go in and trace what some of the deletions and editing and tampering might have been?
I've been trying to find such person. I have people say, oh, I know this person, and get that person. And I don't know, I can't get in there. Oh, I know this person. Oh, I can do it. It's going to cost you $2,500 though. You know what I'm saying? Oh, now you're putting the price on it. You're going to pimp me for money. Come on. I'm a working person. I've been working all my life, work now to take care of my kids. Both of my kids went to college, was doing well. We live very comfortable, and it's just three of us. I never got remarried. No other woman ever lived in my house. Their relationship with their mother, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? That's their mother. You know what I'm saying? She loved them. They love her. But they always lived with me. Their bedrooms, all they clothes are here with me. And now jumping off of that right quick, being that you say Dr. Phil. Now, if Terrence was in Montana from Sunday, y'all arrived in Idaho on Thursday. If you've seen, when I opened up his suitcase with his clothes, all his clothes are neatly folded up, brand new underwear, tape still on them, socks still rolled up, pants not worn, shirt, but he got one pair of muddy, dirty boots in with all his clean clothes. Where are his dirty clothes for the last 5 days? Wow. Okay.
I have a side question, Terrence. Did he, and this is just kind of standard they ask about when they do search and rescue, did they, does Terrence, aside from, you mentioned the $300 inserts, which I have as well for my flat feet, so I can relate to that. Any medical issues, heart, lungs, head, or like headaches or anything like that?
No, I told them they can get his doctor records from his doctor. You know what I'm saying? He has a regular primary doctor at Kaiser Permanente. We have insurance. We have doctors. We go to see the dentist. We go get physicals. Get his doc. Everybody talking about he had. Okay, first now you're saying the young man had a mental breakdown. Now you're trying to say that y'all found pills and this, that, and the other. Okay, that's called hearsay. Show me evidence that you went to his primary doctor where his physicals are, his lab work, his dentist. You got work from. Give me some of that, and you show me one physical, one thing from any of his doctors that said this. He was coming here for anything out of the norm. Show me some of proof from a professional person, not of created word of mouth of trying to down talk this person or make this person look like the enemy, or so people say, "Oh, he had mental problems." Oh, the hell with him. That's just like that. The sheriff said, "Oh, he from the what do you say? Oh, anyone from the city. We don't even live in the city. My son was never even brought up in the city. You know what I'm saying? So, well, because he's black, he's from the city.
Yeah, that's
Come
kind of
on.
the inference you might draw by what he said.
Yes,
And it's always,
yes.
it's funny when
Come
you
on,
said the
man.
911 caller said Terrence had a dark complexion. Well, compared to everybody else in
Right.
Idaho, yeah, but
But even from some of the people in Idaho, he looked lighter than some of them.
well, let me go back to Raw TV real quick, and I think I know the answer to this question, but again, another claim on Dr. Phil by the sheriff, I believe. He said that you had the names of every one of the crew members. Now, is that true, or is Simon the only name that you have?
Simon is the only name that they would. Simon is the only person I met and only name they would give. Raw TV would not. They said there was no criminal investigation and there was no need to give anyone else's name. No, up to this day, even when Fox 5, that's another joke of a newscast story. They did a 6-part podcast on my son. Terrible, terrible. Because it was totally one-sided. Everything that Melanie Orwick did was what the sheriff department said. What the sheriff department said is nothing in a 6-part podcast this lady did on my son, where she have people that he know, people that he went to school with, family members. Everything is what they said, what they said, what they said. Wow. Then the last one was my son was with the lady that owned the RV company and told her that his family, he don't get along with his father. Him and his brother fight. He don't love his mother. Wow.
Do you
Wow.
know that's true?
Hell no. Like I said, my son lived with me. His bedroom, very comfortable.
You
You know?
you mentioned a couple of pieces of evidence and stuff, and I was just wondering, what do you think? What's the one most important piece of evidence or piece of the puzzle that you don't have that might kind of blow this open or reignite it?
One, if we could get in that computer to see, like you said, what was all deleted. And two, like I said, in his camera, if right now you take a bunch of pictures, so now get your camera. The pictures that you just took it shouldn't be 200 pictures in front of them, 50 pictures in front of them. That means somebody went through them and, you know what I'm saying, scattered them around or whatever. Someone went through that.
Well, that's actually easy to figure out. So I'm assuming since Terrence was a pro, he's probably using a pretty nice 35 millimeter camera, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that means that you could download all of the pictures off the camera via USB into a computer, and then
Okay.
you should be able to each picture is time stamped. There's no way around that, and then they
Okay.
also should be in synchronicity. So it should be like, depending how many photos he's taken, it would be 1000, 1001, 1002, 1003, and then you can look at the timestamps. So that's fairly
Okay.
easy, and that's something that you can actually do right now. And that's just hook that 35 up to a PC.
Okay. Well, I was looking at them, through the little scanner on them, and I could see dates and stuff on them. So if that's
So
what
right
you're
there,
talking about.
yeah, exactly. So right there, that would tell you, because
Okay, right. So that's
Terrence,
my point.
yeah,
So,
Terrence
so
is
yes.
really good at taking all these pictures, right? So
Right.
if there was a gap, I would guess with him, obviously without knowing him, that if there's a gap of more than 24 hours, that would be odd.
Exactly. That's my point. Okay. So that's my point. So I'm looking at pictures, but I'm looking at pictures. Okay, like I said, he was just in Idaho, so those should be the first pictures. Then it should be Montana.
Right. Work
But you
backwards,
have
right.
pictures. You have pictures when he was in Rome. How did Rome pictures show up before the Idaho pictures?
Yeah, that's not right.
Come on, man.
You
Come on, man.
mentioned Terrence's suitcase. When did you come in contact with it, and then how long did it take you to actually open it up?
They gave it to me the day after I got there.
And you opened it up right away?
No, I looked in his backpack, his suitcase. Shoot, I ain't open that. I put that in his room and didn't want to open it up for months. And then I finally opened it up, and that's when I seen everything neatly folded up. That's like they said. It was 32 degrees the night they did the shoot.
Was there snow?
32.
Is there snow on the ground up there?
Yes.
There was a lot or little?
Yeah, that's it. In the mountains, it was like that's why they had to stop because of the weather. So, mind you, it's 32 degrees. He runs down this hill. What did he have on? Oh, he had on, we believe, a light jacket and some pants. What light jacket? Well, 32 degrees. His snowsuit that I bought him before he left, that's home with me. He didn't have his snowsuit on. His secondary coat, heavy coat, I bought home with me. So he's out in the woods. Y'all all got on winter coats, everything, but he's out there with a little jacket on. His snow coat, his bomber snow coat, or snow pants, all that. He doesn't wear none of that. His boots, he didn't have boots on. He got a muddy pair of shoes where these shoes are muddy. You know, I mean, mud, well, if you've seen the Dr. Phil show, you'll see the shoes, mud all up. So why would he be out in that type of environment? And I know he loves Doc Martens. So I know he had Doc Martens with him. I guess he might have had those on that day because they didn't come back. You know, his sneakers still in his bag. Like I said, no dirty clothes, no dirty underwear, no dirty t-shirts, no dirty socks. If those boots, those shoes is in there muddy, it should be some muddy pants somewhere around. Because them shoes got that muddy, the bottom of some pants should be muddy too. Nothing dirty.
Yeah, I got hung up on that pretty early. As where were the clothes? I've just, full disclosure here, I've worked in production for a really long time, 20 years on a set. And when you get done at the end of the day, you're not putting those clothes back on. There's a pile of your dirty clothes and you move on. So clearly he's worked on enough sets that he knows that, and you pack accordingly, because basically you wear something, it's done till you bring it home and you wash it. So where do you think that his dirty clothes went?
Who's to say how many days he really was there? Who's to say his dirty clothes wasn't a part of some type of evidence and y'all got rid of them? Not you all, meaning you, but they got rid of them. Come on, man.
Well, that leads into my next question. You know, obviously that hotel room is a very, very important piece of evidence. And now, did you say that the private investigator, the only thing he or she did was give you a photograph of the hallway of the hotel room?
No, I said didn't give me anything. They told me they have it. I have no.
Oh, you haven't. That's right. You haven't seen it.
No. Nobody. No one will let me see anything. And remember this. I don't know if you heard in an interview where they said the crew, quote unquote, went back to his room and went in his room, and then they taped his room off and locked his room so no one else could get in it. So the crew went back in the room before the sheriff department or anyone even got there.
You now have multiple instances where people, if they wanted to, could have tampered with evidence.
Could have done anything, man. Yeah. That's my point.
Thank you for listening to the Crime Redefined podcast. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Crime Redefined. Please send us your comments and questions and join us for the next episode.